Hello guys, buenos días, buenas tardes, or buenas noches. So far in our virtual classes we have done the verb estar. We did its conjugation, its differences with ser, and also a few idiomatic expressions that use it. Today we are going to continue working with verbs. But this time around, we are going to go back to the regular verbs, specifically to the id verbs. Okay? I'm just going to remind you quickly as an introduction that regular verbs in Spanish are those who follow a pattern, those which follow a pattern, right? And we studied one type of regular verbs before the switch to online classes. I hope you remember that. We studied the ar verbs. This one right here is an ar verb, cantar, which means to sing, in case you don't remember that. And this is its conjugation. Now, let me remind you very quickly of how you apply the pattern in order to conjugate an adverb. There are 3 steps, right? The first one is getting rid of the last 2 letters of the verb, of the infinitive of the verb, right? Which is the form that ends in ar, er, or ir. So in this case, cantar, we get rid of the a and the r. What is left, maybe you remember, is known as the stem of the verb. And then that stem in these verbs remains the same throughout. So we put cant, which is what remains of cantar after getting rid of those 2 letters, in all the spaces of this table of conjugation, right? And then the third step is adding the endings. The ending for yo is o. For tú, it's as. For él and ella, it's a. For nosotros, it's amos. For ustedes, it's an. And for ellos, it's an. So as you can see in this little table, that's precisely what I did with the verb cantar. I got rid of the last 2 letters. I put the stem everywhere, and then I added the endings. So yo canto means I sing. Tú cantas means you sing, you one person. Él canta is he sings, ella canta, she sings. Nosotros cantamos, we sing, ustedes cantan, you guys sing, ellos cantan, they sing, right? That is how you conjugate an ar verb. And this is a regular verb because it follows a pattern, right? But I had mentioned that ar verbs were not the only regular verbs we would study. Today we're going to study er verbs. And remember, these groups of verbs are named by the way that their infinitive ends, right? So er verbs will end in er. Let's see how they work. This is an er verb, correr. Notice the strong R there. You gotta roll your R's here, right? Correr, which means to run. I hope you have noticed that the way you apply the pattern is exactly the same, right? So this should be easy. You get rid of the last two letters, in this case the E and the R. You're left with the stem. In the case of correr, it's cor, right? And then you add some endings. The ending for yo is o, so yo corro, I run. The ending for tú is es, so tú corres, you run, you one person of course. The ending for él and ella is corre, él corre, he runs, ella corre, she runs. The ending for nosotros is hemos, nosotros corremos, we run. For ustedes, the ending is en, so ustedes corren, you guys run. And then for ellos, it's en again. Ellos corren, they run. Corro, corres, corre, corremos, corren, corren. That is the way you conjugate an verb. Okay? So the steps you follow to apply the pattern are exactly the same. Getting rid of the last two letters, using the stem everywhere, and applying some endings. The only thing that changes is those endings, right? So in order to learn how to conjugate verbs, the only thing you need to do is memorize a new set of endings. All the other stuff you already know, right? So this is actually, I would dare say, pretty easy. But it's even easier than that. Let's look again at cantar. This is an adverb, right? Yo canto, tú cantas, él canta, nosotros cantamos, ustedes cantan, ellos cantan. Now let's compare it to the adverb we just did, correr. Yo corro, tú corres, él corre, nosotros corremos, ustedes corren, ellos corren. I want us to look at these two tables for a second and compare them. Specifically, I want us to compare the endings. So I'm going to separate the endings, okay? Here we have the endings for the adverbs. O, as, a, amos, an. And here we have the endings for the adverbs. E, es, hemos, en. Look at these two, please. Compare them. You will probably notice that basically the difference between the two is one letter, one vowel. Specifically, in the adverbs, you use a lot, right? A. And that letter comes from the infinitive, right? Cantar, right? It's right there. The only ending that is not using that A is the jo ending, but it's everywhere else. As, a, amos, an, right? And if you compare this to the endings, you will realize that I'm only changing that A for an E, right? E es, hemos, en. Sorry, I just realized the E is a little, it's not in the right place, but this is still understandable, I hope, right? I'm just changing the A for an E. And changing the O from the jo ending for an E, right? So this is pretty easy, right? You just have to take the endings you already know, the endings for the adverbs, and change the vowel for an E that comes from the infinitive of the verbs, right? They end in ER, so you take that E and you put it in the endings you already know instead of the vowels that they have, and you're done. Those are the endings for the adverbs. Es, hemos, en. How can you tell whether a verb is an adverb or an adverb? Well, from the ending of its infinitive, right? So that's fairly easy as well. And then depending on that ending, you apply the right endings and you get the conjugation. Now, let me show you some other verbs, because there's a lot of those. Not as many as the adverbs, right? The adverbs are the most frequent in the Spanish language, but we still have quite a few adverbs. This is the part where you get to celebrate that this is only a virtual class, because if we were in the actual classroom in a normal semester, I would tell you right now, okay, memorize this table. Since we are not, and we have a lot less time for our learning process, you're lucky. I'm not going to ask you to memorize these. I'm only going to ask you to memorize the endings so that you can conjugate them correctly. Okay? But I still want to show you these verbs for your reference, right? And for those of you who actually want to continue learning Spanish, all of these will be very, very useful because they are all very frequent. We use them a lot. So I'm going to pronounce them for your listening benefit. Aprender means to learn. Beber means to drink. Comer means to eat. Comprender means to understand. Correr, we just did it, means to run. Remember, you gotta roll your R's here because it's a double R. Correr. Creer means to believe. Notice that this one has two E's, one after the other, right? So two A sounds. The vowels remain just as open, so you have to just pronounce it twice. Creer, creer, to believe. Deber means to owe, like owing money to someone. It also means to must. We will use this one a little bit more when we do the modal verbs, okay? So remember this one, deber, to owe or to must. Escoger means to choose. Leer means to read. Again, a double E. Leer. Responder means to answer, and vender means to sell. All of these are conjugated in the way that I just showed you. So today's activity is going to be fairly easy. I am going to ask you to conjugate two of these. Okay? Two of these of your choice. But not correr, because I already did it and I don't want you to just copy that table, right? So anything but correr. Just choose two of these, conjugate them using the method that I showed you, and send me the file. You can send me an electronic file via email, or you can send me a photo of a handwritten activity to my WhatsApp number. Okay? Gracias. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. And I will see you guys soon with another virtual lesson. Hasta luego.